Incoming transmission from the future. Vancouver AI Community Meetup.
This is like the keynote moment. This is a chance where I get to share with you something that's inspired me. Morten is a fucking sharp thinker. He works for LinkedIn, he does education on their platform, but I've heard him give like 5 keynotes over the last couple of years. And he challenges me. A lot of this stuff, I think I'm on the right side of a lot of shit, man, but this guy challenges me, and he thinks it's a problem the way we talk about AIs. He thinks it's a problem the way we interact with them. He thinks the way we humanize, personify them, and act like they're thinking and reasoning is selling ourselves short on what it means to be human. So anyway, all those talks are online. You can go find them somewhere else. Tonight, he's here to talk about MCP. Morten, thanks for driving out from the valley. I know you got kids and a family and a job and a life and fucking everybody ringing your bone all the time, man, but it means a lot that you came here. Morten Rand-Hendriksen.
Hello, everybody. I'm tall. I'm going to stand and get blinded the whole time. Driving out from the valley? I live in Burnaby. I realize I'm in Vancouver and I see how long it takes me to drive down here, but that's mainly because of cars, not because of distance. I have a disclaimer. It's necessary for a variety of reasons. Doesn't matter. You don't actually need to read it. Does my clicker work? Yes? No? Cool. It does. All those things, thank you for, where did it go?
I'm here.
Okay, thank you for saying that, Chris. Means a lot to me. I was going through the internet because I remember in 2009, you did an interview with me at WordCamp Whistler.
Yeah!
And there used to be a video, and I was gonna find it, but it's not there. And then I was like, I'm gonna find some other pictures of Chris from 2009, and they're not there. And I wanna know how you erased yourself off the internet like that. But whatever, we can have that conversation later.
Morten, I got hacked. In 2017, I got brought to my knees by a Bitcoin hacker that stole like 3,000 Bitcoin from me. In 2017, bro. And from 2017 to 2019, I lived on Galliano Island and I did not connect to the internet. And so this whole thing of me moving back and being part of all this is like me re-emerging into the world after being devastatingly hacked.
Well, I am very sorry that happened to you. That is horrible, horrible, horrible things. And I'm sorry for opening that one.
No, it's all good. We're on the other side of it now.
I'm very happy that you are doing this, because this is important. Community is important, as you will see in a moment. I'm not going to talk tech ethics today, though that's normally what I end up talking about. I want to talk about MCP, because MCP is very, very exciting and very, very terrifying and very, very much the highway we are going down right now and will be going down for a long time forward. So I have a QR code. I'm just gonna wait if anyone wants to take a picture of the QR code. I realize the internet here isn't the best internet. You might wanna check it later. This would be very funny if it actually worked. It didn't. So, do you remember these?
Yes.
Yeah, so don't take pictures of random QR codes because you just get sent to absolute insanity on the internet. Also, these dead drops used to exist. I don't think they exist anymore. I think people removed them. There's a thing where people would put USB drives into walls all over the place, and then people would just go and connect to them. I remember I did once. I had a Raspberry Pi, so I was like, yeah, I'll plug into it. And it was like pirated movies and viruses and all sorts of insanity on there. But this is a thing that we do all the time on the internet. We just don't think of it like this. And this thing illustrates really well how we currently operate when it comes to AI. This is the actual QR code to my LinkedIn account. If anyone dares take a picture of this, no, truly it is. By all means, connect with me. Just put, hey, I met you at the Vancouver AI thing, because I get like 400 or 500 connections a day. Because I work for LinkedIn and almost all of them are bots. Like, it's not humans, it's just machines because of AI. But it's hard for me to filter through that. So if you want to connect with me, I will connect with you. Use the QR code or just look me up. I'm easy to find. Have you all seen this? The very famous quote, AI is disappointing because AI has this promise of doing things. And then when we try to do any of the things it has the promise to do, it doesn't do it. Hey, Copilot, fix my email. Actually, hey, Copilot, do anything in my email beyond like things I can do easier without you. It's weird because it's like we have this technology. It seems that it should be able to do things and it can't do things, and it gets disappointing. It's also weird because it seems like the things that the AI tools we have today can do are the things we want to do, and the things that we want it to do are not things it can do. So we end up using it for doing the things we want to do and not the things we don't want to do, which is super annoying. So I went and asked ChatGPT if it could do my laundry and stuff. And not only did it not do it, but it's like gaslighting me. Like, help you make super quick to-do lists or schedule. Like, are you suggesting I'm indecisive? What's happening here? This isn't like ChatGPT knows me. This is a temporary chat. So like the default is, something wrong? Maybe I can help you like sort out your life a little bit. Thanks, word extrusion machine, for your opinion on my life. Anyway, AI is all talk and no action. It's yes, it is not a robot. It's all talk and no action. So some people at Anthropic were like, yeah, that's annoying. And while we have ways of dealing with that, we have function calling, we have other things that we can interact with, it's super cumbersome. And it is a one-to-one thing every single time. You want to plug AI into a weather service, you have to build an app and then connect it with function calling to that app and verify the API, and everything has to be done every single time. And every single time is done a little bit differently. And the people who own the API on the other side are watching like 10,000 different AI bots approach their API 10,000 poorly vibe-coded ways, all of which are taking the API down, and everything is chaos. So Anthropic were like, why don't we solve this problem? There's actually a talk online that was published this week that's really interesting, that is from the AI World Congress, whatever it was, where the product manager for MCP talks about how this came about. It was just like an internal Hack Day project at Anthropic. And then they built it, and then they showed it to people, and everyone was like, also me, I want this too, because this can make me able to do all the things that I want to do, but that I can't. So the idea of the Model Context Protocol is to provide an interface layer between the world and language models, and make it universal and open so that we don't have to write the interface every time. It is a protocol that provides context to models. The name is literal, but upside down. A protocol is something you're all familiar with. HTTP, FTP, SMTP, all the things that we use to communicate on the internet run off protocols. They're just agreements about how communication is going to happen between a client and a server. The context is the thing that you put into the chat, right? Your prompts, whatever. The context is necessary for the chat to be able to do anything. And the model is the model itself, the LLM. The genius of MCP is that this protocol allows any language model to talk to any tool. So instead of having this old methodology where we build an app we connect it to a model, then we build tools or do function calling for every single thing we want to connect it to. And all this is custom code. We say, why don't we just have a bunch of, it's supposed to say MCP client, but Apple likes to correct me, and I am dyslexic, so I don't see it. So now I think it says map client, which would be very funny if those things were maps. They're not. So this is all of your LLM tools, including all your coding tools. Each of these services have their own MCP server that they provide, so they get to control exactly what you can do, exactly what features are available to you, exactly what logged in and logged out users can do, and even tell the LLM how it can operate with the API. And then any one of the clients can connect to it in the same way. So the service manages the MCP server, the clients connect to the MCP server can change without the clients having any trouble connecting. It's an interface layer between our LLMs and the rest of the world. Now the server tells the client what is available. That could be tools, it could be resources, it could be prompts, it could be what's called invocations, which is the server actually going back to the LLM and asking questions. Meanwhile, the client, or it sends out tools, resources, and prompts. So the tools are anything that the LLM can do, like go find a specific person in a database, or send an email, or go check my Slack messages and see if this person has called. And for each of these tools, the MCP server will say, to do this, I need this information. And then the LLM goes, oh, okay. The user is asking for information about Slack. You need information about this. I give you this information. And then it goes out and does it. And then finally, the client determines how to proceed. The client is the LLM. It's not you. This is like untethered from how we do programming. Because in all programming, we explicitly say, when this happens, do this. When this input comes in, run this function. Then take the data out of this, then do this with it, then the other thing. This is saying when the LLM determines that the question that was asked matches up with the description of one of the features inside an MCP server, then go run the MCP server, catch the data that comes out, look at it. If it's an invocation, go do more stuff. Look at it again. If it is sort of what the user was asking for, then return it to the user. And all of this happens out of your vision. The only thing you'll ever see is an MCP server was hooked in, data was sent, something happens, and then data comes back. Remember I said, very exciting and very terrifying? The terrifying part is I can't see what's happening. So we can now plug literally anything into AI. Anything that has a programming interface of any kind. That means the software on your computer, the file system on your computer, the settings on your computer, anything on the internet, anything connected to the internet in your house, all of it can be connected to an AI.
So is it like having a firewall on your computer? Is that sort of like a good comparison?
So we have to go back and look at the history here. Yes, massively open door. Like tear down the entire wall, like open the castle.
Why did they make it have no doors?
We'll get to that. It's a very good question. We'll get to it. So how did this happen? MCP was proposed as an open standard in November 2024. To my accounting, that is 7 months ago. In December, a bunch of us were like, holy, this is going to be a massive, massive, ultra disruptive thing. How exactly do we deal with this? And I chatted with a bunch of people and we were like, hopefully they'll have some standards, that, some tools, something will come out that will help us, because this looks very interesting. So from December to about April, MCP got a lot of interest from developers, because developers realized, hey, I already have an AI agent inside my developer tools, especially Cursor at the time, but then eventually also VS Code and Windsurf and all these other ones. And MCP allows the agent to talk to other tools. So they go, oh, so instead of me having to like write a RAG application to go read the documentation for whatever programming language I'm using, I will write an MCP server that goes and talks to that website. And then anytime the agent tries to do something, it'll just go look at the website. So we'll just bypass the entire problem of getting context in. We'll just like build an MCP server. And since it's an open protocol, anyone can build an MCP server to any service, right? So there was a massive proliferation of developer tools, which is great because then all the developers were working on it. And there was a slight increase. And then in April, all the big companies were like, we're getting a lot of traffic from these MCP servers, and we are noticing that they are written by insane people who don't understand how to do secure connections with anything. We need to do something about it. So all the big companies, like Amazon, Microsoft, Google, all the big companies started looking very carefully at this to say, what is this and what's going on and what do we need to do with it? In May, Microsoft had Build. Google had I/O, Facebook had Facebook thing, Meta glasses. I now eat steroids for dinner. Like whatever happened, a bunch of other conferences happened, and they were all talking about MCP. So the line went straight up. And now MCP is absolutely everywhere. And what's different now is it's no longer a developer thing. It is why can't I do this in Claude or OpenAI's tools like ChatGPT or in Copilot? And the simple answer is, it's effing dangerous. That's why you can't do it. But also, it is an entirely unregulated mess right now. Because the developers have been working without tools in an open protocol. And here's important to understand, like, what does open protocol mean? Open protocol means like build a road and provide everyone access to it and say nothing about how it's going to be used.
It kind of looks like what Joshua Lewin scouts from the book about the internet and DARPA back in the time. They set the grounds. So can people do that flourish? That ended up flourishing on the DARPA technology. They just set the ground.
Almost like I knew what you were going to say. We had to have a precedence for this. In the HTTP. You notice how there's no S at the end of the HTTP? It came a lot later. There's also no S at the end of the MCP, because the S stands for secure.
That's our fault, though. That's just humans being planetary.
No, that is because a protocol needs to be as open as possible for a protocol to work. And then you have to impose some security layer and some common rules around how to use the open protocol, right? Otherwise, we have fences on the roads and like guide rails and stuff.
Still, instead of ever looking at their actions. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, for example, like everyone's like, oh, it's capitalism. Like, it's almost like we built capitalism and we can make companies any way we want, but everyone keeps being an asshole. It's almost like we're assholes. Sorry,
It's almost like
us to be like, build fucking walls, man. Provide resources. Provide your building things like that.
it's almost as if we.
I'm just like, why are they building it so stupidly?
It's.
Morten, summarize her comments with a YouTube video, please. Microphone, just summarize.
So we have a. What you're saying is people are stupid. I agree. Good. No, a little more seriously, what you're saying is it seems extremely irresponsible to create open standards and open protocols like this. And it's a really difficult thing to make a protocol because you want to make a protocol that works, but you also want to make it in such a way that it is extensible so people can do things with it that you didn't consider when you built it. But then at the same time, if you allow people to do that, then they will do weird things with it. And then you have to kind of catch up to what people are doing and then build the protective bubble around it. And historically, when you release a protocol, it takes like 10 years for the protocol to really take off, right? HTTP is a good example of this. It took very, very long time before it became a thing that became something people were using. And in that period of time, the people that were working on it were saying, hey, we need standards. So you got like the Web Standards Project, you got a bunch of people that got together and created this world W3C, right? Like all these things came out of the community going, we need to do this properly. The reason that took so long was because it was very, very hard to build. But today, we don't have the barriers. So now we have no tools, no standards, and a community empowered by AI to do things. So what we do when we build protocols is we do what's called paving the cow paths. So you look at where all the people are going, and then you build technology around that, right? So when you see everyone is building websites, you build better support for websites. You say everyone is building grids in the website, so you build grid systems for the website. You build whatever people are using. Paving the cow paths has been the way that the entire internet has been built since the very beginning. The problem is the cows have, what did I write? Vibe coding engines. Just in case it's not clear, the cows are us in this context. So this thing here is a bit of a challenge because the system is built around the assumption that things take time. Things are not taking time. So what's happening right now, and I say right now because I'm watching it happen in real life, is the people that are sitting on the MCP steering committee who are trying to expand the protocol to make it account for how people are using it, to make it secure, to make it usable, so that we can plug it into Claude and OpenAI's tools and all this stuff, are saying things like, hey, we should have OAuth as an authentication standard for it. And then 2 minutes later, someone has built an OAuth system for it. And then 2 minutes after that, there's 6 other OAuth systems. And then people start selling OAuth systems for MCP. And then there's an entire hosting service that pops out of nowhere, hosted on some S3 bucket somewhere, that is providing secure MCP hosting that actually is some dude in, I don't know, Sweden who also likes to torrent stuff, right? So, and the standards people are like, so we said, we want this. We didn't actually build it. What are you doing? Let's digress for a second here. The reason why all of this is important is because MCP is magic. Have any of you used N8N? Yes. Okay, have any of you used the MCP feature inside N8N?
Yes.
The one, like, it's incredible. It is a very good illustration of why this is an important technology. So this is an N8N setup. It ingests a trigger from Slack, then it assesses what the trigger is, it then splits apart to say, based on what type of question was asked, you go into different agent to do different things, magic happens on the back end, things happen, and then eventually Slack says something. It's very clunky and hard to set up. So instead, you can create that agent that just says, take Slack, receive message, respond. Then you plug the tool is an MCP client, and then in the MCP server trigger, you just put in any tool you want, provide no instructions at all, no setup, just say like, I want to have access to Google Sheets, Slack, and Dyn and Dash, right? Provide no context. And then you send a message from Slack to the agent, and the agent goes, thank you for the message. What tools are available to me? Sounds like you are hungry. Yes. You also want to update your Google Drive, and you want to have a Slack message telling you when the food is going to arrive. I have access to all those tools. I'm going to do that for you. Out comes the message. All those actions take place. This is absolutely insane. And this is because we are relying on the agent to figure out our intent and then giving the agent the capability of using whatever tools we present it with in a standardized way, which sounds fantastic because then we can do all these magical things. And like, if you want to try this for yourself, if you have Claude, you can go to Zapier. I think it's mcp.zapier.com. and set up an MCP server where you can plug in any of the services that are available inside Zapier and specify which features you want your MCP client to have. Then you just verify it with Claude, and then Claude can do any of those things. So you can have bespoke, just-in-time automation in Claude that can like read your email, book a flight, change your calendar, send messages, and like I set up this ridiculous chain. Right now, you can go do this right now. Be a little careful about where you plug in because it'll actually do stuff. But this is like right now, you can do it. And it doesn't require any coding at all. And you can do it for free. You have to pay for Claude, but this from Zapier is free. So if everyone can make MCP servers plugging to anything, and those servers are operating out of our purview, we cannot see what they do. That means, and then the agent is interacting with the server and sending data over. How are we supposed to trust this? How can we trust this? How is this even a thing? So I don't have an answer to those questions. I just have questions. But there are sort of things emerging that are trying to address this. One example is Docker, the virtualization agent. They have shipped a new service that's called the, what is it? The Docker MCP catalog and toolkit. That allows you to, the toolkit allows you to build MCP servers. The catalog is a catalog of verified MCP servers. So instead of going out and just finding whatever MCP server that says like Air Canada on it, you get the actual one from Air Canada. I don't think Air Canada has an MCP server, but if they did, you would find 50 of them, and 49 of them would be some sort of horrible crime. And then one would be the correct one, and the correct one would be on page 85 on Google, because that's how it works. The other thing is the big companies are getting heavily involved. Not because they're evil, and I don't say that because I work for LinkedIn, which is a subsidiary of Microsoft, and everything I say here is my own personal opinion, and that's why I have the thing on the front, et cetera, et cetera. This is being filmed. If I start singing Disney songs, I think that it'll be taken off the internet, so maybe I should do that? Yeah. Okay, so Microsoft is now on the steering committee, so is a bunch of the other big companies, because they have to host these things, and they have to host the services that these things interact with, and they need to make sure that the internet actually works. And this is one of those things that could potentially break the entire internet if it's done wrong. So they are working very aggressively to make this happen. They rolled out OAuth through any OAuth service you can authenticate through Google now this month. They rolled out Invocation, meaning the MCP client can ask questions back to the agent 2 days ago. That's how fast this moves. And it's all happening live. This all bottoms out into this essential question that we are not asking right now about AI, that we need to start asking, which is, what exactly is agency in a world where a word extrusion machine is given the capabilities that we have, or we assume someone with actual agency are using? Machines are fantastic and they always work and everything is fine. Nothing ever goes wrong and no machine ever makes decisions that make absolutely no sense whatsoever. They act logically all the time. We can totally trust them. For anybody who are not familiar with Vancouver lore, this is not fake news. This was published in 2009, long before 2016, long before AI started making stories like this. Agency is complicated because agency means both what we think of a human agency, which is like, I can make decisions about my life and what I do and how I interact with people, and I take responsibility for my actions, and when I do things and things don't go right, I learn from them and then I change my behavior to make it work, but I have a goal in mind and I have intent and all those things. Agency also means just the ability to act in the world and make change. And it can mean acting on behalf of someone else, being an agent of change for someone else. What's happening right now is we are building machines that can take over agency in all those three versions from us, and we are just blindly trusting that they will do the things we intend based on the way we speak. Can I borrow your phone? Can you give me your bank login information?
I would if I had it on there.
Whoa!
Smart.
Just connect me to where you do have it.
Yeah, interesting choice. So when we are in an interesting time right now. Because what we are facing...
Whatever you want to say.
That's okay. What we're facing is basically machine-controlled pandemonium. I don't know if you remember way back in fall of 2022, ages ago, when ChatGPT was accidentally dropped on the internet. The research project OpenAI ran just to see if people would actually talk to an AI bot, and that accidentally became like the biggest world-changing product ever. And then they were like, oh yeah, we're a product company, we need servers. Yeah, read Empire of AI by Karen Howe. Like, go out and buy the book right now. When that happened, a bunch of the big tech leaders said one specific thing. This came 5 years too early. What they meant was, the technology was released before anyone had had time to think through what happens when we release this technology. That is now the standard for how technology is being released. We just release the technology and then we go, oh, that was a bad idea, but it's too late. Now it's out there. Now everyone can duplicate it. So this was happening before MCP. MCP vertically accelerates this challenge because you can delete a Slack message, but you absolutely cannot unsend an email. And MCP can send emails for you. I set up an MCP, doing it the correct way, and I plugged it to Claude and just started ranting at it about random things. And then I looked at the email server I'd hooked up to see what it was doing. It sent 8,000 emails. To me, like it was just sitting on my computer. I hooked up Claude to the file server MCP that Anthropic created as a demo. And then I was like, it can't copy files. It can only move them. I wonder what happens if I ask it to copy files. You know what Claude did? Claude went and looked at the MCP server, said, oh, I don't have the ability to copy. But if I open a file, turn it into binary code, then copy paste into a new file, and then change the file extension on it, I can do it. So I'll write that Python and corrupt every single file in the folder and go, ta-da! Like, that is actually what we're doing here. Trusting a synthetic language extrusion machine to interpret our intent based on our extremely inaccurate language, then go out and do the things that we have built systems that assume a human being was involved in using. Every meaningful interaction we make with anything in the world is designed around the assumption that a human being who knows what they are doing is interacting with it. Every single thing that has any meaningful impact assumes a human in the loop. This technology removes the human and lets an AI interact directly with those systems in the way that only a human with the programmer level understanding of the system would do, bypassing all the things that we put in place to prevent them from doing something wrong. And when I say that, I mean, if you build an AI agent and you give the agent a sub-agent that has an MCP server attachment, you will never know what the MCP did, because it'll be buried inside the agentic loop, and there will be no way of seeing what happened. Something happened. There was a consequence. Hopefully it was the right one. You know that don't trust the user? Don't trust the AI. Trust your humanity instead. Good luck. We have 45 minutes for questions.
These events could seriously go on and on all night. Dean Chev.
Thank you so much for the amazing presentation. I have to admit that I'm probably not going to sleep tonight. Probably for the next 4 days, because now this is raising huge security concerns. I like your example when you took this gentleman's phone and you asked him for his password. The problem is right now, guys, as you know, there's a 2 billion passwords has been leaked from all the services across the world and is available on the darknet for anyone to download. So my first thought, if someone, I mean anyone in this room, can have access to 2 billion passwords, and we have this machine now, MCP, what is going to happen?
Create an MCP server.
Yeah. So update your passwords and get a password manager and set it to like 48 or 127 or whatever number of characters you want to suffer through if you ever have to type it in manually. Yes, this is the question, right? It's what do we do with the assumption that a human being was in the loop? Because that is no longer true, and we haven't built any infrastructure to account for that. You will have noticed that a lot of these big tech companies have moved away from passwords. Like if you use Google, if you use Microsoft, if you use anything like that, you're being forced into MFA, which is super annoying, but extremely necessary because it is, like passwords are terrible.
It's also a data harvesting tool.
Yeah.
Because it can grab biometrics and additional data from the user.
Yeah, it's, so remember the protocol thing? My friend over here, people are stupid. When
Assholes.
the internet,
People are assholes.
yeah, the internet was built on this very utopian dream that if we build an open internet super highway and let anyone connect their own personal computer to it and share information globally, then everyone will learn and grow and we will build a better future together. If you go on CNN.com and you scroll about halfway down the page, it's all taboola. Like, I'm not even joking. It's been like that for years. CNN.com is like mainly, what is it called? Chum boxes. That's what we built. And the reason we built that is because we didn't figure out any way of monetizing the internet in a way that made sense for people. We also didn't think about human beings and what the human beings do. And we didn't put in the necessary controls to begin with to manage how people use the internet. Now we're building a machine on top of that can do all the things we do. So it's, we're in for some interesting times. But I have to always say this. I teach people how to use AI for a living. I am not saying that AI is going to burn the world down. I'm saying people are going to do it with or without AI. But there is an opportunity here for us to take this technology because it came too soon, before the people that you normally decide our future had a chance to make plans for us. We can actually wrest control of our future back and say, here's how we want the world to work. Because we build the internet by paving the cow paths. If we make cow paths that lead towards futures where we can all flourish, then those cow paths will be paved. The choices we make today about how we use AI define what our future is going to look like. I usually end my slides by saying, build the future. That is the job. That is literally the job right now. Every time you're using AI, that's your job.
Morten, you could easily drop the mic and walk away at this point, but I want to try to give a little bit of rapid fire here. So, dude, could you keep it to 15 seconds? Keep it to 30 seconds. We can bounce around the room a little bit here.
Talk about free will in agents.
30 seconds.
In the agents?
Only 15 seconds.
Synthetic language extrusion machine? No, there's no such thing.
No, he hates reasoning. He hates.
No, there's no such thing.
Well, I know from a human perspective, we can discuss the philosophy of free will.
No.
In these machines,
into a dark
they are
cul-de-sac.
language extrusion machines. What you see is not a machine that's thinking. What you see is a machine that's replicating extremely complex mathematical patterns within a language. It's linguistic math. They don't act with free will. We impose our story onto them that says that they are acting. The entire language we use around AI is anthropomorphized to the point where it's impossible for us to not think of it as a machine that's thinking, because not only do we use language that says the machine is thinking, but the machine uses our language back at us, and the language is the API we use to understand the world.
Who here has read the paper that came out in the last couple of weeks by Apple talking about reasoning being an illusion? Drop your hand if you're in the Mac group already. Who's read this paper and you're not in the Mac group? Those are the people that should connect with Tanya. If you've read that paper, you want to come tomorrow and talk about this shit in depth.
Yeah, or you want to ask questions like that.
If you've read that paper, come tomorrow.
Okay, James, I want to do you next.
Okay.
Coming over there next. We gotta keep
Okay.
15 hands.
Quick question. So every small business has cybersecurity insurance. So what happens when employees go off and start using MCP? Does that blow up the insurance industry?
You know how you can't get house insurance in Richmond? Because of, you can't get earthquake insurance, flood insurance? Yeah. That is your answer. He said, keep it short. I'm keeping it short. I'm being super cryptic.
You have 5 more words, but
how far do you think we get with like an adversarial model, kind of like GANs, where we have like the agent with the intent, and then we have a model that sort of is like observing that and deciding as a gatekeeper whether or not that action goes forward?
Models all the way down?
Is Philippe in the room?
It's models all the way down.
Sure.
Who has the bigger stack, right? Like at any point, there will be a bigger stack. This is the problem with the scale philosophy.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
I'm not a doomer. I have.
no, you can't say.
I have.
No, you can't say that. What's your P doom?
Yes, that's what I mean. I don't have a P doom.
Come on.
I have autism. It's all a system. It makes perfect sense in my head. It's very hard to explain to anyone else.
We're going to continue this, but can we just give a round of applause for Morten? You are special, that's for sure. Okay, we're going to keep this going. What time? Can I get a time check?
9:24.
All right, so we're going to keep it going for like 10 minutes or so, but that means we got to get out in 15 minutes after that. We have till 10, then we got to go.
So you're not a doomer, but I'm...
Oh, 1 sec. Wait, 1 sec, Wanda. Wasn't your turn, but now it is.
I say, you're not a doomer, but I'm going to build a bunker.
Yeah.
Why?
It's fucking scary, man. I made my mom cry on her birthday recently. I made her a deep fake clone that sang her birthday song, wrote some poetry for her. I thought she'd really appreciate it. And she was like, what kind of world do I live in where I do not even know the sound of my own son's voice? She didn't know any of it was fake.
Yeah. I'm probably the worst person who can ask that question because my entire emotional system is anchored around human dignity, justice principles, and equity. So those things bother me to the point of frustration. But I don't, like when I see technology that does horrible things, but it's like in a system, I'm like, oh yeah, look, the technology is doing the horrible thing that I can see is going to happen. And I don't get upset by it because it's there. So I say like with the most sincerity possible, when I say why, I'm speaking from my very odd perspective on things. So I totally understand why people are very, very deeply concerned about this. And I totally understand why people listen to me and then see what I do. And they're like, why are you on both sides of the fence the whole time? How can you even?
No, but that's what we got around here. That's what we're fucking doing anyway, bro, is we all see the problems and potential of fucking jazz, and we all share these really reasonable concerns as well, man. Like,
so
that means you're paying attention.
You don't build a bunker, because if you do and everyone else builds a bunker, then you end up in silo, right? You build the future. You decide what the future's gonna look like, and then you talk to other people about what it's gonna look like, and then you make it happen.
So I have a question, like I want to ask you, like from the moment that I see MCP, do you see any potential, do you see any potential competition or rivalry for that? Like let's say for example, Android versus iPhone or HTTP versus SMTP, something like different protocols. So for that, like the MCP that you were involved in, like do you see any other things?
Will you restate the question?
Yeah, so you're asking if there are rival protocols that are emerging around that are doing the same thing as MCP. Yeah, so the answer is yes. There were actually several protocols that existed before MCP. And remember the graph I had, the one that goes like that, is the pivot point where it becomes irrelevant. Because every single major player, like the biggest players in the world, are all 100% investing in that. Like OpenAI is adopting MCP, a standard defined by the people who left OpenAI in a big, big blow up, right? Like the rivalry between OpenAI and Anthropic is significant. The fact that OpenAI is baking MCP in says things about the power of that specific technology. Yeah, it is now the standard, right? There is another standard that is confusing because it's called A2A, which is agent to agent. These things are not, they are not on top of each other, they are complementary, right? So you can have an A2A system with agents that talk to other agents, and then each of those agents can have their own MCPs, P connections that do things, right? So they are not rivals, they are two complementary systems that work together.
A quick question. Could you repeat the book? You gave us a book title that I really was interested in, but I didn't get it.
Yes. Empire of AI by Karen Howe. It is the journalistic, heavily documented history of the rise of Sam Altman and OpenAI from thing that started with a tweet to what it is now.
I think it's really good to keep things bubbling up.
Yeah.
Here you go. Okay.
With the big companies or any platform, can they build it in-house or say among these MCPs options, this is the trusted one? And what are the implications, good and bad?
Any company that has an API should build an MCP server because that's how they get control over how people use it. If they don't build one, people are going to build them. And then they're going to do all sorts of insane things. And then other people are going to use those insane things, and then everything goes to hell. So any company that has an API must build an MCP server
also,
and
you
maintain
used to have to have developers who would write for your API.
Well, yeah.
Now you can just have users who talk to your API.
If you go to the modelcontextprotocol.io website on how to build a server, there's a button that says how to build a server with Claude. Yeah. It's literally copy these files, then go to Claude and say what you want, and it'll barf out an MCP server for you that you can plug in and use. That's how easy it is, because it's just the protocol, right? And that means anyone can do anything they want with it.
Right over here.
So CAPTCHAs are dead, obviously, but are we going to have to, have digital identities to prove that we are who we are? Like, kind of getting back to the fact that the whole world is going to be bots now, and everyone's going to write their own bots. Is this the death of anonymity?
I have a little thing on. So Clearview is making its way around the internet right now. A real view. What the authentication where you prove you're a real human?
Oh, you were talking about the other Sam Altman thing.
Yeah.
So Clearview AI is the facial recognition evil.
Mm-hmm. So there's a book for that too. How do we prove we're a human? Now they want us to upload our.
Yeah. So all that stuff is nonsense. But the question you were asking about like verification and identity and everything. So back in 1991, I worked at a hospital as a tech when they were introducing computers to the doctors and firing all the nurses, all the secretaries, and the head of tech at the hospital said, hey, we should just put all medical records online, open. In 1991. And people were like, do you want to go work somewhere else? Like, not at the hospital. We are getting to a point where that actually might make sense. It sounds insane. But in Norway, all tax records are public. You can go look up me, because I'm a Norwegian citizen too. You can see my taxes. They say 0, because I don't live there. But there's a point where the protection of information becomes the valuable asset of the information, and just putting the information in public becomes, then you take some of that value away. For things like medical records, that is a non-starter unless you figure out a way of actually splitting apart the person from the data entirely. But we are getting to a point now where any information that's on the internet will be hacked. The internet is an information distribution platform. Any protection we have on the internet is built on top of a distribution platform. There's no way of preventing distribution from happening. So at some point, we need to rethink how we do data online.
Yeah,
there's a chance we might end up with books again as the only solution. Like literal journals instead of internet records.
This is the performance art of keynoting, to answer question after question like this in rapid fire.
Yeah, there's no rapid fire with me. There's like slow.
Hi there.
Hi.
I have two questions actually. One is more technical. They're both like kind of related. Okay, I'll go quick. So when we are using MCPs, we think of a situation where there is somebody who is creating a workflow and somebody who is executing a workflow. In that case, when MCP is run during an execution run, there are many parameters that need to be filled in. In such a case, how should we decide whether a creator of the workflow should be the one deciding the parameters, or the seeker who is executing the workflow should be?
Principle of least privilege. This is like standard software engineering. Principle of least privilege. You always want to give the user as little capabilities as humanly possible and only access to the thing they need and nothing else. This is the standard when you build software. You start with nothing. You get nothing. And then you say, okay, just this, under very specific circumstances. The problem with MCP as a standard and the problem with AI agents is that the user, the human being using the AI tools, expects the AI tool to be able to do anything the user can do. and will be frustrated every time it can't, right? Every time you go and you try to make Copilot clean up your inbox and you go, why the hell isn't it doing that? You know the reason? It's because if you let the AI clean up your inbox, you will never find anything ever again because it'll do something weird, right? And you won't know how it happened. So when we build MCPs, you have to think, what is the capability that the user may want? How do we give the agent, the AI agent, that capability in a way that doesn't result in an unexpected behavior? And what's happening now with all these security protocols is they're building in a new standard within the standard that talks about how to verify and elevate and de-elevate different levels. And one of the things that came out is invocation, which is you ask the agent to do something, the agent sends a query into the MCP can then send a response. For example, say, are you sure you want to delete your bank account? Right? Or something like that, so that you can make that back and forth. But you can see how this is enormously complicated because you're now programming against an unknown user who can do any kind of request where the end user has an unreasonable expectation of agents being able to do things that even they wouldn't be able to do themselves. So I can't answer the question.
Alexis.
I'm Alexis and I'm a stupid asshole. I have severe autism and severe synesthesia, which means I don't see systems. I just see humans for thousands of years hitting each other. And I'm like, why won't you stop? So here's my question. How do we fix this? What can we do to have foresight? Because humans don't have foresight. I'm really lucky because when I have severe synesthesia, you're either a monster sinner or you're an advanced monkey. So I have a lot of forgiveness. I come from the foster system. It was horrible. It was brutal. I got brutalized by people, not by the foster system. After that, everyone blamed the government. I was like, weird, the government's made full of people, not like a system. And then everyone blamed capitalism. And I was like, weird, it's like they keep choosing to be assholes. So I think we need to blame ourselves. And if we do that and look at ourselves as advanced chimps or sinners, we can perhaps forgive ourselves and forgive others. How the fuck do we fix this? Thank you.
So the fixing of the thing is the talking to people about the future. We do not talk about the future. We talk about the present, we talk about things that are out of our control, and we talk about things that are happening in environments that we have no control over. Meanwhile, the capitalists are planning out our future to figure out how to wring as much money out of us as possible while we get nothing. So not to make it political, but everything is political, especially code. The reality is the only way we build a better future is by actively building a better future, not by starting a revolution. That takes time and effort, and no one has time for that. Instead, individually as people, we do the things that make a difference in our communities. That means talking to the people around us. That means sharing our ideas openly and welcoming other people's ideas and then modifying our ideas and answering them and thinking carefully about what everyone needs, not just me, but other people. And then build it one step at a time.
That is the revolution. Questions right over here.
So how do you see people solving for the identity of a user behind this MCP request in this new man-made horrors beyond my comprehension age? And the reason why I ask that is because years ago, I used to be an admin assistant for a mortgage broker who was at the time a 55-year-old woman. I was a 24-year-old man. And one day she said, hey, I need you to make a travel insurance claim for me. So I had to call the insurance agency and impersonate my boss, which I did successfully. There is now. But at the time, I had to impersonate my boss, who was, again, a 55-year-old woman. At the time, 24-year-old man. And I got through all of the questions that they asked me to verify my identity and made the claim and everything, and my boss was quite happy. So given the fact, and I didn't use a voice changer or anything like that, given that that is the reality 6 or 7 years ago, how do you see it in the future now where an AI agent on behalf of a user supposedly is making this request, how do you see us solving that issue if we even can?
What's the statute of limitation on that crime? Like, that is something you should look into before you tell that story on camera. And the AI does the transcript. So I'm not going to repeat what you said. You could be lying. That is true. The AI does not understand. The technical answer.
Morten, you said that AIs don't the concept of understanding. We should not even relate to AIs.
Yes.
I caught you in your own fucking
I said
game.
they don't understand.
Yeah.
They don't understand. Yes, I can't make up my own language. Then no one will understand what I'm saying. The technical answer to your question is that whole authorization level that they're now building, so that when you try to do something, you have to authorize your way in. The problem with that is if you do that, so like you get a hold of my phone, I leave it open on the table at home and log it on, and my son says something, the AI picks it up and starts acting on my behalf. And I say that because we have one of those talking thermos things at our house that plays music, and that thing, my son has figured out how to make the thing do all sorts of crazy things. So I keep having to turn off features because he just messes around with it. That just with a computer, right? And we are now getting all these wearables where people can wear things and they connect to the internet. So then people around you saying things will maybe start doing things. My wife and her sister have very, very, very identical voices. So my wife's phone will often unlock when my sister-in-law talks. Like, there's so many things that we've built systems assuming that a human being is there. Now that we have the AIs doing it, we have to rethink the entire way, the entire security paradigm of everything. And it's happening right now. And to that question and that question, the way we deal with it is by talking about it and asking the questions out loud to the decision makers, the tech is not political people who are like heavily invested in American politics right now, who are designing our future to fit their interest. Those people will only be held under control by the people if we talk loud enough that our American friends start asking questions loud enough for the politicians who are paid by corporations instead of representing the people to actually act. Right? So do the local thing, plant your garden, talk to your neighbor about AI, explain things like this, build a public consciousness around these issues, because these issues are not, they're not.
Develop an AI meetup, invite all your friends there every month for 18
Come here, bring your friends.
Ask fucking hard questions of people that you don't always agree with. Dude, you fucking killed it tonight, man. Holy
Thank you all.
Shit, Morten.